as there was less and less of a distinctly Indian presence, and you had more and more of the mixtures, or mulattoes, as it shows in the census records. Mulatto, I hate that term because it's just an umbrella to sweep all Indian people under. And then there was after that term came about, then they came up with the term colored. And that was another big umbrella to sweep all the Indian people under. Anything so they wouldn't have to put the word Indian in the record books. So what they couldn't accomplish with the torch and the gun, they hoped to accomplish with the stroke of a pen. And it's for that reason I reject totally the label of Black Indian, because I've seen people use that term. I've seen some of our own people use it themselves, but usually it's an externally applied term. And I reject that totally. As long as there are blonde-headed Mohawks and blue-eyed Cherokees who are not identified as Euro-Indians, why should any Indian that has any black ancestry be identified as a Black Indian? What's good for the goose has to be good for the gander, but it's just a reflection of the racism that's in this society in general. When this whole idea of recognition, federal recognition, started to manifest itself, the government was basically holding up a hoop that we all had to jump through as tribes. And so if you couldn't make it through, or if you're almost making it through, and they decided to raise it higher, you had to jump higher and do even more tricks. So it ends up with a process where mountains and mountains of detailed documentation has to be put together to submit to the very same people who have spent all of their time here on your land trying to stop your existence. That's essentially what the recognition process is, in a nutshell. What a lot of our people do here when people come and they want to put us down because we have mixed blood and they don't like the way the mixture is, that instead of putting us down, we need to be given a lot of credit. The fact that we still have been able to remain Indian after over 300 years of every attempt on heaven's earth to destroy us as Indian people. I think we have a great deal of right to be proud in our sense of Indianness that we still retain, because the easiest thing in the world is to be absorbed, you know. It doesn't take any strength at all to do that, because you've got forces on either side that's waiting to just absorb you. But to remain Indian, that's the hardest thing. And but survival is a beautiful thing.
At first, I felt kind of a little uncomfortable, kind of like I wasn't really welcome. But kind of walking through a little bit and feeling pulled, you know, like I want to participate and want to be a part of it, but can't. There was an older woman that walked in that I was looking at. As soon as she walked in, I thought of my grandmother. And I think a lot of the older women, their features remind me of my grandmother and make me realize how much native blood she had in her, and I didn't really realize it, but I see a lot of it more in the older women. Once I felt more comfortable knowing more about my history and probably connecting more with my native culture and some people in the community, I'd feel a little bit more like I would belong, but I think that would help.
I think I've become very comfortable with myself because of my family. And I would probably give all the credit to my grandmother. She always worked hard to make sure that kids were happy. She always gave everything to make kids feel empowered. So when I think about how much she gave and how much time she spent in teaching kids beading and culture and cooking, I mean, I would credit a lot of that to her. Well, I was born and raised my whole life on the Makah Indian Reservation in Nia Bay. You know, I can't think of a better place to raise your children in terms of having your family there. I mean, just living in the city and you see so many people suffer and do without. Just growing up in Nia Bay, we're all such a tight-knit community that there was always food on the table. People are always warm, and everybody opened their houses up to each other. So it's just a very loving, very giving, very friendly community. Just a lot of people that would give, their last dime to you if you ever need anything. And I lived with my mother and my two sisters, Justina and Helona, and my father, Ernest Grimes. So pretty much grew up knowing that I was from the Parker family. Nobody ever really shined light on the fact that I was also African American and Irish, because everybody in Nia Bay was basically Makah, and the school was 99.9% Makah. We were Makah, so the only difference is we had curly hair and everybody else had long hair. And then when I went away to college, I found myself more so gravitating towards African American people, because that's how everybody off the reservation viewed me. Nobody had no clue I was born and raised on the reservation, and I had a lot of girlfriends who were African American, and some of them said I was more white acting, or I really was more Indian than I was black. And that was kind of the first time I had anybody really question or challenge me, when really I didn't think it mattered, because I knew who I was. I don't have any children right now, but I do have nieces and nephews, and we always share with them family songs so that they can sing them and hopefully one day dance to them. And my sisters always make it a point to bring them back home to Nia Bay to participate in the cultural dance practices. And when we have a potlatch or something, make sure we go home and participate in that as much as we can, even though we live so many miles away from the reservation. But one big thing is, growing up in the city, their teachers don't know that they're Indian. They don't know that when they probably hear them talk about Nia Bay all the time. Just don't really know who they are, so they don't really stand up and celebrate their native side, because they pretty much identify as Native, and the teachers think of them as African American.
I'm Katia Brown. I'm 10 years old and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is Traylo and I'm 7 turning 8 this year, and I am in 2nd grade.
Hi, my name's Freddie and I'm 6 years old, but I'm turning 7, and my birthday's in July 13th.
So what tribe do you belong to?
Nia Bay. Macaw.
Nia Bay tribal.
Do people think that what do they think you are in school?
Some people call me Mexican.
What about you, Freddie? What do they call you?
Nothing.
What about you, Tia?
Black.
What do you tell them?
I say I'm not all black. I'm Native American, Irish, and black.
So get it right, huh? Mm-hmm. Thing that I've always tried to teach, my students, that nobody can take away from you who you are or what you're all about. People can say mean things to you. They can try to belittle you or degrade you or talk about what you're wearing, or they can talk about what you look like, but they can't take away who you are, your identity, in terms of knowing that, like knowing I'm Makah, knowing that my father's African American and I'm proud of that, or knowing my grandfather's Irish, and knowing my grandmother was Indian and she was a proud Indian woman who overcame so much just for the sake of our family. So that's huge. I think it's often said that somebody like me who is triracial has to consistently prove not only to the Native people I'm Native and I do care about my culture, but to the African American people I'm very upfront. I'm willing to learn about it. I mean, I only know what my father and grandparents have given me, but I'm never going to be more black than Indian. And I don't try to be.